We're live on the other recording.
All right, so that'll be YouTube, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, YouTube, or good afternoon, wherever you are.
So let's start by introducing ourselves. My name is Ryan. I'm with Seeking Discovery. I've been on the road full-time now for just over 2.5 years, coming up on my 3-year anniversary in May.
Right. And I am Josh. I'm with the Wander Lounge Bus, me and my wife Hillary, and our cat Tootsie drive around the country and having adventures. And we've been doing this for about 7.5 years.
And my name is Kimberly, and I have been on the road going, I'm in my 5th year. I've been 4 years and some months, full time. And I travel with Luna and Willow, my pups.
So you got a cat, Dad, you got dogs, and I have no pets.
We don't refer to our cat as a child.
Well, you have sourdough, so.
I mean, that can be a pain in the butt, actually. So ultimately, the goal of this talk is to answer your guys' questions and provide feedback on what it's like to really live full-time traveling nomadic lifestyles. So, who wants to give the first question?
So what have you found the most challenging being on the road, or what has, surprised you? You prepare for a lot of stuff being on the road, but what sort of caught you off guard as far as being able to deal with different issues?
Well, I can start since Ryan doesn't seem to be ready.
Go for it.
I've found the biggest challenge on the road while you're traveling, like you have a destination in mind, you know where you're going to go, you know what you're going to do when you get there, but along the way, if it's not a one-day trip and you need to stop someplace, you need to overnight, you need to resupply, etc., that can be a little bit challenging. I think most of us probably do the Walmart thing. Walmarts are reliable places that you can just show up unannounced. You can do your shopping. You can usually sleep in their parking lot somewhere without being hassled. But if you're trying to do not Walmart, it's a lot more challenging. There are different apps out there, like Ryan uses Boondockers Welcome and Harvest Host, which are paid services. She does as well. There's some positives and negatives to that. I see a big negative, especially with Harvest Host, where they're generally at wineries and breweries and places like that. And they have the expectation that you're going to spend $30 or $35 while you're there. Like, you're not just camping for free, you're also going to patronize their business. And as someone who doesn't drink and who has a wife who doesn't drink, those aren't very attractive, and that seems like that's the majority of the places that are out there on that program. They also have, like, I think Boondockers Welcome, it's free, but they might want to, like, you additionally, we're going to provide you some water for a fee and some electricity for a fee. Whether or not you need it, they're kind of expecting that.
Well, and what I've experienced with Boondockers and the way that it's laid out is the property owners can offer you that, but it's not expected that you partake in it.
Right.
Right. The program says it's not expected, but individual owners might differ.
I've never experienced an owner that's tried to make me pay for anything, but I also show up knowing that I don't need anything.
Right.
So I come with a full tank of water, my solar's keeping me charged. I've never felt like pushed upon by a boondocker owner that, oh, I expected you to fill up water for $5. A lot of times I've had them say, hey, you want to stay an extra couple nights, even though I said you only booked for one night, or they give you like free reign of their land. One that I stayed in Ohio, they had hiking trails through the forest by the river.
Nice.
Tour of their house. Like, most of them that I've experienced have been fantastic, and they're not in it for the money.
Well, that's good.
They're in it for the connection and the community, because most of them are also travelers. So when they're home, they open their land to those of us who are traveling, and while they're traveling, they seek out other boondocker hosts.
And that's true with me as well. Actually, I have gone knowing that I needed water and fully expecting to pay. I've gone knowing that I needed electricity because it was super hot and I needed air conditioning. And they've said, no. Don't do this. Here, take something out of my garden. Do you want to come with us for dinner? I mean, it's really been just a different experience altogether. I've never had from Boondockers Welcome anybody expect me to pay them anything. And sometimes they go, yes, do you want electricity? It's $10 a night. And sometimes I take them up on it. But for the most part, they're offering it as just kindness.
And that's boondockerswelcome.com.
Boondockers welcome. Yeah.
And they're
The Harvest
owned.
Host program.
Yeah, they're owned by Harvest Host, so you can
Yes.
get Harvest Host, or you can get Boondockers, or you can get both of them. They also have a golf package, which includes golf courses as a place to sleep. And if you have their top of the line package, it also includes a map of all the dump stations in their network. So I decided to get the top tier one. I want to say it's like $150 a year for the ease of having that app to kind of do what I need. I am not the kind of person who typically plans my day. I'll usually have where I am and wherever I'm going, and it may take 3 or 4 days to do that trip. And I will wake up and open the app and say, okay, this is about 150 to anywhere up to 250 miles away. I'll request my stay for that same night, and I'll just start driving that direction. And usually within a couple of hours, I will get that approved request from the host, and then I know I have a safe, secure place to park for the night. And if for some reason that ever falls through, then I do similar to what Josh said. Cracker Barrels or Walmarts are kind of my second option if I haven't found a host through Boondockers or Harvest Host. Natalie.
Oh, sorry for my English. I'm gonna try. Okay. I'm in the same way as Ryan and Kimberly, but I would just say I've been to some place. They are like religious place, you know, and we can make a donation, and they accept the donation we can give them. So we don't have to pay like the $35. And for me, you know that my money costs a lot more in Canadian. So I'm happy for that because it's cheaper. But sometimes, like your way, Ryan, I'm more like your way. Like I don't know where I'm going, and I look where that I'm gonna do 4 hours, but sometimes the answer when I ask arrive too late. So I drive more, and then I said I cannot go because it was sometimes I have this issue, but I like I'm gonna take another year of Harvest Host and Boondocker. I want to pay that because when we travel alone, and this is not my country, this is my first year of living a lifetime full, and so I need to have something that assure me, give me confidence. That's what I say.
Yeah.
So I will speak to that as a solo traveler who's female. I really like to stay away from places where people are going to be knocking on my windows asking me for money and saying, the manager said it's $10 to sleep here, which has happened to me at a Walmart before. Early days, but it happened.
Yeah.
So those things, I like to avoid. I know I like to be aware of my surroundings, and I like the fact that Boondockers Welcome, I can go in. They've been checked by somebody. They do a background check, and I've never felt threatened at a Boondockers Welcome or Harvest Host. And also the Harvest Host, there are museums and there are orchards and farms and stuff that you can stay. And I really like those. And there's not this huge okay, hand me $35 or hand me $40. Ryan and I stayed at one, and I think we spent like $1.51 or no 51 cents at the snowmobile place.
Oh.
It's like it took my quarter. No, it took my
We
penny.
paid for admission of the tour,
So,
but it was like
oh,
a
yeah, we
$5 tour to go do the
Yeah.
museum, and that's all they were looking at was like just come check out this
Yeah.
cool museum.
Yeah, we did. I'm sorry, I forgot that. But we
Yeah.
did pay the 51 cents. And
Yes.
And
For
that's
that.
true that they're giving us sometimes. They give me vegetable, eggs,
Yes.
something, and I didn't pay for that. They just offer it, and the water was free. But I've been asked, do you need like electricity and full things like hookups? And that was like $50. So, but I don't need it because I'm free, free. So I said no thanks. But they say you can go on the field and see like the sunrise and the sunset and everything. So most of them, they are kind. What I'm afraid of is Walmart. I've been told that you don't go to Walmart. I never spent a night in Walmart because all the story I heard was you're gonna be they're gonna try to steal something. They're gonna broke your tire. They're gonna broke this. So I never been there because I'm afraid. I'm not going there. I go to Cracker Barrel.
Yep. We've
I've
done
seen
a
it.
lot of Walmarts, and we have not had that type of experience at all.
Same, and I'm a woman alone, and I've been. I mean, you're gonna scope out the neighborhood and get a feel for, some are in bad areas and some feel very safe.
Yeah.
But
I think the worst that we've had in Walmart, like I guess there's two things. Number one is the knock, right? Like the knock is when somebody of authority comes up and says you need to leave. We don't want you here for whatever reason. And that has happened to us one time in 7.5 years. The other thing is you can be at a Walmart where the parking lot's not great. And the worst we've ever had in all of that time was like the local teenager Mustang Club had their little meeting in our parking lot, and they were all super interested in our bus. And of course, they're also teenagers. They were loud, they were rowdy, they have loud Mustangs. They're doing donuts and burnouts and everything while trying to sleep. That wasn't great, but also I wouldn't call that threatening. That's the experience that we've had. It's been overwhelmingly, you go to the back of the parking lot, you're out of the way, nobody's going to pay you any attention. They're going to leave you alone.
I will add to that. I was in Memphis for a long time, and I frequently went to a Walmart parking lot because it was just easier.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a snowstorm. Actually, it was an ice storm. Everything was iced over, and people were sleeping in their cars in the Walmart parking lot. And I literally made a huge pot of soup, and I went around and gave everybody soup.
Oh,
Because I felt bad for them.
you're too kind.
So and I actually had there was one girl who was living out of her car. It was obvious, and I had her come in and gave her soup and hot chocolate and just talk to her.
But do we have to ask before the place that can we sleep there? Because I was in Tampa and I thought that all the Cracker Barrel they accept us. So I went there, and then somebody knocked at and it was not sleeping time because they saw me, and I was wondering why I was alone, but like alone with a van or something, but they didn't accept. I couldn't sleep there, but I thought I was going to be.
So there are like municipality regulations where they may have
So
rules
we have to
against
go and ask.
overnighting. Like my rule is you can sleep one night anywhere, and the worst they're gonna do is tell you to leave.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Because
that's not great, but also
I've been living this in Planet Fitness too. They knock on my door at 2:00.
yeah, Planet Fitness is not one of the places that I recommend to go because they're typically in a strip mall, and they're shared with a bunch of other businesses where Planet Fitness isn't necessarily the folks telling you need to go. But we have talked to a couple of Cracker Barrels who have said we don't allow overnight here, and it's actually around Tampa area where we had that experience. So we didn't go to those, but when we're on the road, you really should ask. We don't. We drop our anchor somewhere in a parking lot. Like we'll go into a Walmart typically after dark, and we'll be gone before the sun's back up the next day. We leave as little of a footprint as possible. We do our shopping while we're there, and we haven't really had negative experiences doing that.
my policy at Cracker Barrel is if they have the RV parking spots,
Right.
I feel like it's probably fine, and I haven't ever had an issue. And Walmart, if you see other people parking there,
Yeah, and that's maybe another tip that I've developed is when you're looking like I'm on my route, I got hundreds and hundreds of miles to go. I'm obviously not making my destination tonight, so we're going to look at Google Maps. We're going to type in Walmart to find one that's along the route and find one that's convenient. And then you just zoom in all the way for that satellite view and look at their parking lot. And you can kind of tell, like, there's still some small Walmarts out there. You don't want to go to those. They don't have room for you. But the Walmart supercenters with the huge parking lots, you'll typically see on the satellite view, well, that's an RV, that's an 18-wheeler set up to park to overnight in their parking lot. So you can see someone else has already done that and presumably that means you'll be able to do it too.
There's also an app called Walmart Boondocking, and it's like iOverlander. It's or it's like people report whether you can park at them or not, but it lists. You know, you go and it's a map. You zoom in, and it shows you color coded basically whether you can park there or not, and you got to look at it because it might have been reported 5 years ago,
Right.
and it might have changed. But if it's been reported recently, then I've always found it to be pretty accurate, whether it allows parking or not.
Well, did you say there was a question?
There is a question online, and it says, why are they giving their private business plans on here where everyone can see? So,
Like,
I wouldn't call
why
it
are we answering these
business
questions
plans,
in
but yeah.
in a public forum?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
no. The question is, why are we sharing our plans where everyone can see? And if you open up Boondockers Welcome or Harvest Host, there's a bazillion places. I didn't tell you where I'm at.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the reason we're doing this on live as well is because there's folks who weren't able to attend in person, and this is information that can be helpful to them. So that's why we're having this open dialogue, both in person as well as making it available online.
Yeah, and I'll also throw out, when we started doing Walmarts, like we quickly started to recognize other people who were maybe stealthier than we were, but were clearly sleeping in the Walmart parking lots. We started in, I guess it was 2016, and the economy was kind of iffy then. It's gotten crazy since then, but a lot of people have found themselves vehicle bound and out of traditional housing, and you can find a good number of them at your local Walmarts. But we would see everything from we'd see other schoolies, we'd see RVs, we'd see coaches, but we'd also see Honda Civics and minivans and
Priuses.
yeah, Priuses.
We had one here this week.
And not to say everybody, like Kimberly has a great story of meeting a bunch of people who were hungry in a Walmart parking lot. I have a slightly different story where one of the Walmarts that we went to, actually the one that we got the knock at, there was a woman with a van who was doing a number 2 in a bucket in her van with the sliding door open for the world to see. And I'm pretty sure that's why we lost camping privileges at that Walmart. But generally speaking, like, she also was keeping to herself, other than the door being open, right? She wasn't coming out making herself a nuisance. But
Scott, did you have a question?
So you were talking about you get up and you're gonna travel 150 to 250 miles. Mm-hmm. Is that typical? I mean, is there a reason why you wouldn't go longer, or you can only stand driving a bus that long?
It's because of bus time.
Tell me about bus time and
so
your
bus
experience.
time's a real thing. Like, if you go on to your preferred app that'll give you directions, it may say you're going to arrive in 4 hours. That's 4 hours in a car, going the speed limit, maybe speeding a little bit more than the speed limit, and that is your projected time. My formula that I kind of go by is I don't even look at that time estimate. I look at the miles, and I assume an average of 50 miles an hour, which will allow for fuel stops if I need to use a restroom or something. So at 200 miles, that's 4 hours of just straight driving. And in reality, it sometimes takes longer than that. Or if you're stopping off and seeing things along the way, you may go 100 miles, find a park that you want to go on a hike or something, and then you still got another 100 miles to go. So for me, there's also so much to see that I don't want to be in the bus going more than that, because you miss out on a lot of the cool things or the little hidden gems that you wouldn't normally see. So while I'm driving, if I'm driving on an interstate, I will watch billboards. And if there's something that's like a local little touristy thing that I'm interested in, I'll just pull off, go find it, do the thing, and then get back on and keep going where I was ultimately trying to go that day. The other reality is sitting in a bus seat for more than 4 hours is not fun.
Right. I was gonna say also, you can travel fast, but that's expensive. Or you can just take it slow, and that helps you to afford to go further. You just take your time and, like he said, see the little local spots and whatever. When you're ready, we have a question, but you were gonna say
Oh
something.
yeah, I was just gonna throw in. I travel typically an hour or two in the morning, and then I have to work, so I can't spend the entire day driving. I mean, to Ryan's point, it's also not super comfortable driving a school bus down the highway. Some buses are better at it than others. Mine is at the lower end of that scale as far as not being a great driving experience, but it does get me where I'm going, obviously. So I like to drive maybe an hour or two and find a park somewhere that we're able to go and have some nice scenery and some fresh air and be able to enjoy the day there. But I am a little bit glued to my laptop and the internet for several hours during the day. Maybe we'll drive another hour or two in the evening. I also don't like to drive at night. I like to have already chosen and arrived at my overnight destination as the sun's going down.
I know some people follow the 222 or the 333 kind of things, like, don't drive more than 2 hours. Try and find a place to park for the night at 2 o'clock, or start looking, and then don't drive more than 200 miles in a day. Same thing with the 333.
Well, and to Kimberly's point, in my bus, if I'm doing about 200 to 250 miles in a day, that's going to be about $130 to $150 in fuel. So that's the other thing I'm being mindful of, is I don't want to be blowing through thousands of dollars in fuel a month. I would rather go to a place and be there for at least a few days. So that's where, like, Boondockers Welcome, a good majority of them, you can do up to 5 nights at a Boondockers location. So I may try to find something, do those multiple nights there, work and just kind of relax, get outside, make some money, and then jump to my next destination.
Which that segues into our next question. She says, Coastal Wanderer says, I have Harvest Host, but should I add Boondockers Welcome too? Also, have you had anyone not accept a schoolie on the app?
So, in my experience, I would recommend both, especially if you're trying to find a spot where you don't have to move every single day. Boondockers makes that possible. The other thing that I like about the app is the transparency. So my profile on Harvest Host and Boondockers Welcome says it's a converted rig. There's photos of my vehicle and me. I can put my bio of who I am. It also, I think, shows the guests my previous stays, and if anybody has left reviews on me, as well as I have left reviews. So it makes it a very transparent that I am somebody in a bus that's coming. And usually when I put a request in, I'll say that it's a 40-foot converted school bus. I've got solar panels, no pets, and self-contained. And I've never had anybody give me a hard time. Some of them are, this is our first bus we've ever hosted, but most of the time is, that's really cool, can I get a tour?
Yeah.
Same.
Yep.
So,
I wouldn't bother with the golf courses though. I don't know if they still charge extra for golf courses, but they usually want you to play around.
Yeah, and I have the golf course add-on because I wanted the dump station map, but I've never stayed at one of the golf courses.
Never worked out for me.
What do you got?
so that Coastal Wanderers say they are Don and Amanda with the dark gray schoolie that was here last weekend. They wish they were still here. We wish you were here too.
Well, now you get to be here in spirit online.
Yes.
I have a question. I don't know I know the name of all the states in the USA, but I've never been to all of them. I want to visit. I want to go. I want to try, except maybe Alaska, and Hawaii. But I want to try. And what I have to look for if I'm traveling by bus? Do I have to know what kind of animals are there, and like snake or something? There's place I don't know if there's just sand and no water I can have. Is there a place? There's no place for gas. what do I have to look for before going some of those places? Do you understand what I mean? I mean, and where I look. So do I have to go to the information center? Do I have to look before in on the web? Those kind of things. I don't. Maybe that can help with your experience or anybody here.
I think the information centers are good places to stop. They should have all the same material available on their websites for that particular state. But if you go to the information center, they're going to have stuff like if there are particular like dangerous animals that are there. Like you go into Florida, they're going to have a pamphlet that's about gators. They're going to have something else that's about the red imported fire ants. They'll have some information on what to watch out for. But they'll also have a lot of like attraction stuff in there. So you kind of have to, you got to go through the noise to get to the signal. If you go to their website, you'll probably find that information is more easily available. But like for me, when I go into a state, I like to find out what's the fishing like here. Are the fish safe to eat? You go into some place like Michigan, which is a state with tons of lakes and tons of rivers. Most of them are unsafe to eat the fish, and they've got a pamphlet that tells you all about that. Other states have similar information.
That would be my activity because that is my passion to fish. But
yeah, well, if like the deep river or the deep lakes in Michigan are generally safe. The rivers and the smaller lakes, you're fishing for sport. You're throwing it back.
Yeah, it depends on like kind of what industries or manufacturing is in the area and how they've treated the ecosystem.
Right.
But one of the nice things about stopping at like the welcome center or one of the rest areas is a lot of times you can pick up a map as well. And some of these areas where we're going, there may not be cell service and you may not have a Starlink or not have it set up. So if all of a sudden you're out of service, at least you have some of that physical material that you can flip through, you can check a map, read it, and have a hard copy of it, so that you're not reliant on the cellular connection of your phone.
that's good.
Yeah. And it's not always the case, but oftentimes they'll actually have a person staffing that visitor center that you can ask questions. So if you have specific questions that aren't answered, like, I'm way up north, do I need to worry about moose? You don't know, maybe.
Yes.
And they will know. They'll have that answer for you.
Okay.
Also, ask in the Schoolies Forum group when you're going to go somewhere. Say, hey,
Oh, yeah.
who's been to this place and what should I see and what should I avoid?
Have you been?
To all of them? No. You saw the list of states I've been to.
There?
To your point about picking up maps and stuff, one thing I've gotten in the habit of is with Google Maps you can actually go in and download sections that
for
will
offline use.
be there offline use no matter what. So if I'm going somewhere and I know it's kind of iffy on the cell service, or even sometimes not, I'll just download it ahead of time, and if I go out of cell range, I at least still have my map.
And one of my favorite apps in that realm is called You Need a Map. It's got like a photo of Uncle Sam on it. It's like an 8 GB app, but it also includes logging roads, and it downloads all of the maps offline. So it uses your GPS signal, which you don't need cellular for, so it'll still show you on the map. You can pull it up. You can do tracking with it, so if you're hiking, you can tell it to track your route. So if all of a sudden you end up somewhere and you're not exactly sure how to get back to your vehicle, you can always backtrack based on the trail that it was keeping. And I believe last time I checked, the app was free. So I like to keep that on my phone as a backup.
What's the name of the app?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Okay.
It's called
You Need a Map.
You Need a Map.
You need a map. Okay.
And so that's one that I keep on my phone at all times. One thing to just be cognizant of is if you've got like data saver on your phone and sometimes apps offload, make sure you remember to check it occasionally that it's still downloaded and didn't offload from your phone to save storage.
How do each of you balance an itinerary travel or just wandering itinerary type of travel?
I try to only wander, but it doesn't always work out. If we have some place to go, like we've got some friends up in Michigan who have this amazing property and like the bougiest, most amazing log cabin you've ever seen in your life. And we spent like 4 months parked outside of their log cabin last year. It was amazing. And we told them we're leaving on. We left right after the schoolies forum. We're like, schoolies forum ends on this day. We'll see you at some point in the future. Like, we're headed your way. We'll get there when we get there. You know, we did like I said, we drive a couple hours maybe in the morning and a couple hours maybe in the evening, depending on how we're feeling. And it took us like 10 days or 12 days to get up there. And we just stuck with fuzzy. We'll be there around, you know, maybe the weekend or maybe early in the week or what have you. And we try to stick to that. Like, if you have a destination you absolutely have to be at, that means you have to be in that seat, and you may not be enjoying it, and you may not be taking care of some of the other duties.
Well, and for me personally, I'm more of like a seasonal traveler, so I'm typically finding somewhere. No, that's fine. I'm typically finding somewhere south for the winter, and then I head back to the Upper Peninsula in the summer. So I've got my kind of seasonal shifts where I'm looking to travel, and then I'll usually try to leave at least a month, maybe more, between leaving the south and getting north. And in that time, I'm usually going to try to meet up with friends. So like when I leave here, I'm headed to North Carolina to go visit friends who just opened an ice cream shop. Then I'll swing through Tennessee to visit some other friends I haven't seen in a few months. So that, and then in between those stops is when I'll start looking for those kind of random places to check out and visit along the way.
Yeah, and to expand on that a little bit, if you're in the schoolie groups and you are traveling, it's always a good idea to say, hey, I'm going from over here to over there. Is there anybody along the way that maybe wants to meet up? Or maybe, you know, somebody's going to offer you a driveway or a spot in a field or something where you might stop and make a new friend or catch up with an old friend and be around similar-minded folks for a little while. But when we went from Michigan back down, we kind of hurried on our way up. We still, I say hurried, we Walmarted it instead of going to visit friends. But on the way south, pretty much every night we were visiting with somebody that we knew along the way, which is
And
awesome.
I am itinerary driven because I'm a missionary and I have churches where I have to go to, and I try to line up the churches by region, let them know, hey, I'm going to be in your area at this time, and see if that works for them. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I kind of try to plan a loop and, try to encourage the people in the churches, to like let them know I'm going to be around in this vague area of a week or so. I'm not really strict on my itinerary, but I do try to get so that I'm not like going to say Iowa and then to Florida and then to North Carolina and then Michigan. I'm trying to make it a loop of some sort when I travel, and I do try to line those churches up in that way.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I asked
No.
it.
That's why we're here.
Okay, so I have this issue about BLM. I know what it means, Bureau Land Management, but I don't understand how to get there and where. Is there BLM in the east part of the state, or are they all? And do I need a card? Do I need to buy something to go there? I don't know how to find them. I search, but I don't understand all the lane on the plan. It's all, I don't understand this thing.
So there's different categories of that land. Like you mentioned BLM, but there's also water management, there's wildlife management, there's all kinds of different public use lands. BLM is typically out west. If you go into Florida, you have a lot of wildlife management, water management, things like that, which have similar rules as far as how long you can be there and such, but they may have requirements.
How can I find? Because this is the first time I hear the other name.
Mhm.
Where
So-
can I look to have those? I don't.
So
Probably the easiest way to do it is to get an app like iOverlander. iOverlander has free to park places all over the place. It includes those types of spaces. A lot of parks, a lot of like we'll find ourselves at equestrian areas where people are expected to bring their horses in and hang out and camp for a week and ride horses and whatever. Usually when we go, there aren't anybody there with horses. It's just a couple of schoolies and some tents maybe. And we've had really good experiences doing those. But Florida has a lot of like the WMAs, the wildlife management areas.
And you'll look up Florida Water Management Districts, and you can go on there and say camping, dry camping, and then you can fill out an application, and they'll and you can stay up to 2 weeks in those areas, and then you have to move on.
And there might be another one 10 miles away
Yeah.
that you can go from A to B, but you can't come back to this one for I think 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
But there's actually there's like a triangle of 3 somewhere near Miami, and you can go A B C and just keep
This
stay
is
basically indefinitely.
No, it's a website, Florida Water Management District, and then in Michigan you go to Michigan State Forests, the state forestry, and you can stay up to 2 weeks there. But again, you fill out an application, and in Michigan the requirement is you print the application and leave it on your windshield, which I don't because it's got my personal information. But if they come and tap and ask, I'm like, I have it here, but I'm not sharing my information with everybody.
Right.
And they've never argued with me about that. In Minnesota, you can stay up to 2 weeks in a place in a state forest, any state forest, with no application. And the thing is that after the 2 weeks, if you move a foot, you've moved.
But
So you can
if
stay.
Also,
if I go in information center, are they going to tell me all this? Because
That might be more specific than what they can tell you, which is why I go back to the iOverlander app. Because you can see what's around you, you can see where you're going, and kind of plot ahead of time. And they should have, generally speaking, links to the website for the WMAs or the equestrian centers or whatever, so you can get the official information. And also reviews from people who have stayed there that'll give you their firsthand.
It's not
Another
easy
thing
to find.
is there are Florida outdoor groups, or there's Georgia outdoor groups. You can go and search by state, outdoor camping or outdoor groups. And those guys are really a wealth. They're a goldmine of information about where you can stay and where you can camp, and they'll tell you what the state's regulations, or they'll point you in the right direction.
And one other recommendation I would have is state parks, which are usually staffed by a ranger that's part of the Department of Natural Resources for the state. So even if you go there for a day to visit that state park, you can talk with the rangers, and they will usually have maps and resources for the free camping specifically. So in Michigan, I stayed at a state forest campground when a ranger came around, and in his truck, he had a map that he gave me that had all of the various dry camping spots in the state. And he's like, here you go, you can just have it. And it told you if you had to register, told you if it was free. It gave you all the information. So talking with a park ranger that's part of the DNR will be a easy way to get that information from somebody who lives and breathes the natural resources of the state that you're visiting.
there's also the same people who make the Walmart boondocking app. They have an app bundle. They also have one that has U.S. Forest Service and BLM all over the country.
Recreation.gov is often where you go to make
Yes.
reservations for all the
Yes.
state parks, and there's a ton of information, and then you just end up sort of going down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, asking the schoolie groups. If you're going to Florida, Schoolie Forum's a great place to ask about where can I go in Florida for free, because there's so many members there. But other groups cover other regions of the country really well as well.
But it's not easy to find, it's not simple for me.
I'm very good.
Well, the simple way is to, when you're going to do that, because you are part of Schoolie Swarm and you're not going to get attacked by Snark, to say, I'm going to this state, what resources do I need to find free parking or safe parking? And everybody will give you really legitimate resources that they use, probably more than you can even handle. But you know, that's a very good and safe way to ask for that. You can ask also on Bus Bonanza group. You're not gonna get attacked by, you know, people will do that on the Facebook groups there.
I'm gonna ask you after this.
That's fine.
So PJ Lover says that they worked for BLM, and then they said plate, etc. I don't know what that means.
Places.
Oh yeah, probably BLM places, etc.
Yeah. So.
What other questions do folks have, or
There's
topics they want to chat about?
There's another really good app similar to iOverlander. I can't think of it at the moment. It starts with X. X.
Are
It's
you,
an Overlander
are
app.
you talking about like Onyx Hunt or Onyx Overland?
Yeah.
Like I use the Onyx Hunting app because it'll show you all the
Yes.
state-owned public land,
Yes.
and it'll usually show you what's private land and who the owner of that land is.
Yep.
So you can get that as a nationwide. It's an annual subscription. I think it's like $100 a year, and you get every state. Or if there's a specific state you're staying in, I want to say it's like $30 for the year. So I've got it for Michigan because that's where I spend most of my summer. And that way, if you're out hiking, adventuring, or doing whatever, and you're not really sure, are you still on public land or have you crossed to private land, it'll give you a better idea. Now, it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. And they do have the overlanding version as well.
Question, can you go over all the places that you've dumped wastewater? Like different, besides just the dump station at
State
RV
park campgrounds and truck stops. That's about the only
Rest
place.
stops.
Yeah.
Truck
Some.
stops, I haven't seen
Rest
any
stops.
truck
Yeah,
stops.
some of them do. It's not
The big,
super
like,
common.
travel plazas.
Yeah.
A lot of Loves do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Loves is one of
Loves,
the most common
TA.
ones.
And you can look at they have an app or their website, and it'll list whether they have them or not.
There's an app too. It's like
Yeah.
dump station app. Just Google dump station app.
And iOverlander, I think, also can pin dump stations.
Yep.
And
that,
if you have
that bundle that I just mentioned also has one for dump stations.
and if you have the full Harvest Host Boondockers top tier, that also includes dump stations right inside of your Harvest Host app. I typically do state park campgrounds because I need it maybe twice a month max while I'm out on the road. So I pay my $5 or $10 to dump and fill, and that's still a cheaper water bill than being in a sticks and bricks setup. That's my logic.
And the state parks need our $5.
Yeah, and I would much rather
Yeah.
give the money to the state parks than like a truck stop because Love's normally charges I think $10 as well.
10 just for dumping.
Yeah.
You don't have to sleep at the state park.
Nope.
You just go there and say, I want water and dump my thing.
Yeah. So like admission to the park may be $20 or $30 normally, but if you tell them you're just interested in dumping and filling, they'll usually write you just a quick ticket and then direct you where to dump and fill, and then you leave.
Or $5.
That's what I've experienced, $5 or $10
$10.
depending on the state park. And even if you don't have a state park pass, they don't require you to get one of those either. Have you guys experienced different with that?
I was thinking it depended, there was a place we had gone to in the Panhandle, and, but they did let us dump. We never been turned away from dumping. It was just, they wouldn't let us go, they didn't let us go in the campground at all. Go dump and get
Yeah.
out. They were very good.
Was that more of an RV park kind of place?
No, it was a state park, but it was in, like Destin, Florida. so
Sure.
It was,
Okay.
you know,
I've never had that negative type of response at a state park.
that's the only time I
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's surprising and unfortunate, and hopefully that remains rare.
Yeah, and for people that are looking for maybe a break from reality and they are looking for a campground to go to for a night or two to get a long hot shower or do laundry or have full hookups, my recommendations are first and foremost state parks, and then second municipal campgrounds. And the lower option would be private campgrounds that are not RV parks.
Yeah.
But state parks and municipal owned by like the township, those I've never had issues with somebody refusing me in a schoolie.
But you know what's even better than that is if you find a schoolie community member who has a homestead of sorts. Like that's going to be a super welcoming environment. There's going to be other schoolies there. They typically have like really good facilities provided. Some of them let you stay a day or 3 days for free, but otherwise charge if you're staying longer. Things like that.
Kimberly, you said you had a question on TikTok?
Mm-hmm.
She's typing.
So, what were the apps mentioned during the live, and can we get them in a pinned comment?
Yes, good.
So,
Well, and we can also make just a video after the fact to post on TikTok of these are the most common apps we use while we're on the road traveling.
But you'll post them on like the Bus Bonanza site or something.
Yeah, we can
Some of us
Facebook.
yeah,
Can you?
we can do
Because
that
I don't
too.
have TikTok.
Yeah, we'll have a dedicated video for that. Oh, I'm looking at your phone, but it's up there. We'll have a dedicated video for that coming up shortly after this.
And on Bus Bonanza.
Yes. Yeah, we'll do a post in Bus Bonanza as well.
So I don't see any hands up at the moment. Let's talk about how to save money on diesel. How many of us have diesel engines in our buses? Right. And how many of us hate pulling into little gas stations trying to fill up our buses? All right, so the next question is how many of us are already using open roads?
Only?
What's open?
Is it
All right, so this will be a good talk for you guys.
Is it an app?
Open Roads is an app and a card that, as a RV owner,
Are separate. You need to
right?
know.
Well, you need both, yeah.
Yes.
But as an RV owner, it gives you access to fleet prices at truck stops. So, right. So you know you're going down the highway.
Trip, Amber.
and
Yes.
You see the huge sign 300 feet in the air for a pilot, and their price is like $1 more than you think it really should be. Well, the fleet owners and the fleet participants aren't paying that price on the sign.
Right.
They're getting a significant discount off of that. And if you join Open Roads, you will get a fleet card. And the hassle with it is the initial sign-up process. They're not the best app and the best process. You might have an email or two in between there, and it takes a couple of weeks before you receive your card.
You can get it overnighted though for like $75.
Yeah, if you really need it in a hurry, it's gonna take you a bit to earn that money back. But I have found I'm saving 65 cents a gallon on average off the price that's posted on the sign. And if you look at like Gas Buddy or those other free apps, they don't come close. I'm way below what they're paying. The difference is you only get it through the truck lane unless they don't have truck lanes, which sometimes happens. You're expected to pay at the pump unless they don't have the thing, pay at the pump, and then you go inside. You only go, or you get in the line with the trucks. The pump that you're dealing with is on the left side, even though your thing's on the right. So you do your thing over here, you pick your pump up, you set it on the ground.
Which is a very strange
Right, you don't, that's not
It's very
enjoyable because
uncomfortable.
anybody can pick it up and fill their gas can.
Yeah.
But you do that, and then you go around to the other side, pull that one up and fill your tank.
That's a good idea. I'm going to follow you.
Yeah, there you go. One thing folks might not be excited about is they do tie it to a checking account. So you do your business at the filling station, and then 3 or 4 days later, they will take the money out of your bank account directly. Not a problem for me, not a problem, I think, for most people, especially when you consider how much you're saving in the fuel.
Yeah.
Now you ask, how do they make their money for all the stuff they're doing? Well, the people who are actually in a fleet get a slightly better discount than what you're getting. They have a 20-cent transaction fee that's on every fill up, and then they have
They take 10%.
it's like 10% of what you're saving they keep for themselves. So you're still getting a huge discount. They make a little margin there as well. Nothing's coming directly out of your pocket. You're still getting cheaper diesel than you would get otherwise. Their app is it's not the best app, but it's pretty good. It's got the thing where you hit go to my location and you can kind of see where you're headed. But the savings are for real.
Yes.
Using it.
Well, and depending on where you are in the country, other smaller stations may be a part of it. So like up in the Midwest, you've got Quick Trips.
Yeah.
Those are part of the fleet program. So you can pull into any Quick Trip, regardless of if it has a truck lane, and still use it.
Yeah, we got Love's, racetracks. So I just pulled the app up real quick, and the closest station to here that's participating
I think it's in Dublin.
is, it might be, there's a Love's, there's a racetrack, and there's something else. That one, their price is crazy. But I could get diesel down the road for $3.56 a gallon.
But click on it outside you posted.
Yeah, let's see what this price on the sign is. It's in Dublin. Their price on the sign is $3.75, and I get it for $3.56.
And depending on where you are,
Gas Buddy.
so Gas Buddy and Upside are both like rebate apps. So for the longest time, I was using Upside exclusively from like the moment it came out. And at one point, I was in the top 1% of users and had gotten over $500 back in cash back.
Upside is great if you're a gas engine operator.
What was the price at the closest one? I'm gonna compare it to Gas Buddy because I've been using Gas Buddy.
$3.58.
$3.50. Let me pull it up again because I've already closed it.
The Loves in Dublin.
Loves in Dublin's $3.58, and the racetrack is $3.56.
And Gas Buddy, it's $4.23 if you use your Gas Buddy card. $4.29 otherwise.
But check another local station that's not a truck stop on Gas Buddy.
$3.87.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the truck stops, their signs, they're usually really high on diesel. Oh, Kelsey has a comment.
She says, yes, I had to have a trucker show me how to work the truck pumps because of the left right side thing.
Yeah.
Somebody had to show me how to do it too.
Same.
Kelsey had to make a friend.
Yeah. I was like, am I really going to put this on the ground? And he's like, yes,
Yep.
you can really put
You're
it on
really
the
gonna
ground.
put it on the ground.
Okay.
Some
don't squeeze the
usability
handle.
issues with that situation.
So I like to have all of the options available, especially if I'm in a spot that's off the beaten path and there isn't truck stops. I'll still refer to Gas Buddy and Upside. So it's better to have options. With those, you can purchase with your credit card that's tied to your account. And then sometimes it's automated where it'll automatically upload the receipt for you, or you may have to take a photo of the receipt, submit it to the app, and in 3 to 5 days you'll get a balance that starts to build up inside of the app. And then you can cash that out to PayPal, to gift cards, or as a bank transaction directly to your account. If anybody's not using Upside and wants to, I have a refer a friend code that I think will save you 15 cents off per gallon on your first fill up, in addition to whatever the savings are.
It was probably Kelsey
Keep an
though.
eye on your phone for the puzzle.
He was like calling and then nothing.
Oh, there was a guy
Was there another question?
talking about incorporate. She said, no, he was so helpful. Most truckers are. My stepdad is a truck driver. But yeah, he was like, and then colon.
And then filtered.
And then there was some other comments. Well, there was another guy that was on there that was not being a nice person.
Well, and speaking of how friendly truckers are, I haven't personally experienced it, but I've seen a lot of people on social media talk about it, that if you're at a truck stop and need a shower, they get so many free showers because of the amount of fuel they're going through every month.
Yeah.
That you can walk up to a trucker and be like, hey, can I have a shower credit? And a majority of the time they'll be like, yeah, no problem. They'll go get you your ticket, you get your private bathroom with a locked door, and can take as long of a shower as you want.
But it's like one of my friends, Bruce, tell me that. But I don't imagine me walking and knocking and asking the guy.
Inside of this truck stop. So not in the parking lot.
No.
Yeah, not in the parking lot.
But inside the building.
Walking from the pump to the building, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Don't knock on a truck door.
Yeah.
No.
You're a beautiful woman.
Wrong
Don't put
impression.
there for another reason.
Wrong kind of shower.
Right. So,
I misunderstood, I think.
in truck stops, there are like a lot of times they're like the general public pays over here, and then there's a trucker payment place over there. And so if you see someone over there and they're up at the register and stuff, that would be okay. But I wouldn't go. I could just imagine a woman going up. knock, knock, knock. Can I have a shower?
Yeah, I thought that was I was going to do, so I said no.
Yeah. And sometimes in the bigger truck stops, there's even like a waiting area.
Like a lounge.
And I said, can I have a credit for a shower?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have an extra shower credit?
Okay.
Because they're
not
getting
gonna
hundreds of
use.
gallons
Right.
at a time, so they get all the.
Yeah, like every 50 gallons of fuel they put in, they usually get a free shower credit.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna
And
ask
so
the
if they're
question
filling
I asked
200
last.
plus gallons,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And if you're using the Open Roads app and you get the card for whatever the truck stop is anyway, like you'll get those showers too.
if your tank can hold that much fuel.
Right.
But
Oh,
do you
okay.
have to do 50 gallons at a time or does it accumulate?
At the Loves, you have to do 50 gallons minimum at a time. But there's another, and I'll talk to you offline. Somebody told me about another one that Flying J and all them are doing, and those are cumulative.
Okay.
So if you do 20 gallons and then 30 gallons, then you qualify. Type thing, but Loves is all at once.
Can I?
That's
They
hard
already
if
have-
your tank isn't 50 gallons.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got a 100-gallon tank, you might just get those free
Right.
showers
But
anyway.
mine's 40.
Because I don't need that
I've got
much
60
in the
gallons.
same
50
time.
gallons.
I have. I didn't enjoy it, but I did it.
So there's several apps you can use that are just specifically for truckers rather than cars and stuff with experience issues. So there's absolutely a Facebook group in my town where I'm from. It's just a specific bridge with pictures of people knocking stuff off the top of their RVs.
Yep.
Yeah.
AC remover, bridge.
Right.
There are apps that can use clearance issues.
Yeah, you definitely want to know your clearance on your bus.
So yeah, knowing the height of your rig is important with where you're pulling in, which is why if you have open roads and you can use the truck lane, you never really have to worry about it. What other questions do folks have?
Just a random comment that the Quick Trip's offering their gas pump or air pump is actually functional like 95% of the time, which is unusual.
Yeah.
So Quick Trip is the place if you need air.
Yeah, I've found since I plumbed a air thing into my air brakes, I haven't used any external air
Yeah.
for my rig. That was a big, nice upgrade
carrying your own
feature
air
for me.
compressor.
Yeah, I got a 50-foot retractable hose reel that I can hook in.
You got all the things.
I can use air tools and I can inflate my tire. I actually, one of my recent trips, I was headed back towards, I guess I was heading from Florida to Georgia, and we had a flat. We ran over a nail. And we were in a parking lot, and I was like, whatever, Hillary, go ahead and just keep making dinner, and I'll get the jack out, and got my rope plug kit, plugged it up, used the soap to get the thing back onto the bead, and filled it up for my air brakes, and went along my merry way.
Yep.
Yeah, I was lucky that when I bought my bus, it already had the quick connect port on the tank, so I didn't even have to do anything.
Yeah.
And then, I think I bought a 50-foot hose from Harbor Freight and the filler with the gauge built in.
Yep.
And so from that tank, I can reach any of my tires and be able to fill them on the go. And
I filled a lot of tires. Most of them were not my own.
Yes.
We have 60 seconds to do a puzzle.
Oh, puzzle.
Very
Puzzle. Thanks, TikTok, for this interruption.
there we go. We did the
All
puzzle.
right, you did it. Yay.
We're real people.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great upgrade, though. That was one of my favorite things
Yeah.
that I added to my bus.
We had it
How
in
can
the,
we learn about
in the
that? Where
overland.
can we learn about that?
Do you have air
You got
brakes?
a video?
I do not have a video. I should make one, though.
Now I got air brakes.
Yeah.
So crawl under your tank and see if you've got a port with a cap in it. And then you just take that cap off and you thread in the quick connect and make
I
sure
don't
it's
even know
sealed.
where the tank is.
It's underneath your bus.
So does that,
Thank you, that's helpful.
does that mean that you never drain your air tanks either?
Yes, it does mean that.
You should drain your air tanks. Regular intervals.
Or at least when you stop, pump your brakes all the way down to.
That I do. Yeah, there's a lot of things I should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of the draining again today with our afternoon chat.
Yeah, with the air brake chat.
With the pre-trip inspection and air brakes.
So you were saying adding the air hose was one of the best things you did. What else? What else were you maybe surprised was such a great upgrade, or Or do you highly recommend? You really need to have
Game
this.
changer.
Yeah,
Yes.
separate from the air thing, right? So I mean the basics, obviously, like upgrade to a diesel heater, like do that or be cold, right? Putting as much solar on the roof as I could fit. I can't recommend that highly enough. Like shade your roof and take all those sun rays and put them into your battery instead of turning it into heat. I really like our awning. Having
really
shade
like
that you can deploy off the side of your bus is awesome. It gives you a place where you can cook and you can hang out. You put your chairs out and whatever, or you can work.
Any specific recommendations for awnings that aren't
I
gazillion
like the
dollars?
fully mechanical one, but Josh likes his electric.
I like the electric one. I like the switch and being able to say, "Okay, here comes the wind. Hit the switch and walk away and do something else." And Ryan's out there.
It's not that hard.
Recommendations for brands?
So
or-
mine is a Rec Pro.
Yeah.
Rec Pro's pretty good for most stuff, and
It's
they've opened up into more schooly compatible stuff. But they, like, if you go to their website, it's gonna look like it's all RV.
Right.
But it's like upgrade parts. Like you bought this crappy RV and it's got this junk in it, and they've got replacement parts that are better than what came in the RV, which is why I tend to recommend them. Like our fridge is from them, our new water heater's from them. Our water heater's awesome. That's another great upgrade. Having a good on-demand water heater that's run off of propane that has good temperature control. All those things, like incrementally getting to that, is our journey. We started with one that had really bad temperature control, and
Same.
like in the morning versus the afternoon, you would need to go out and adjust dials to get the water temperature that you want. We don't have that problem anymore.
What about a wind sensor for the awning? Is that just something that's going to break? Is it worth the
I don't have
effort?
any experience with the wind sensors. I don't leave my awning out if I'm not
In the area.
roughly in the area, right? Like I'll go to the grocery store or whatever and leave it out. But if I'm leaving for days, I'll put the awning in.
And usually the most expensive part of an awning is the arms and the tube. So like I found mine on Facebook Marketplace. The canvas was ripped. It had come off the guy's son's RV, and the son never came back for it. So he just wanted it gone. He was giving it away. So I rolled up in my bus. He helped me take the arms off of the tube. We loaded it in the back door over my bed and set it on the floor. And then I carried it for 2 weeks until we got to Swarm in Virginia. And I ordered in the new canvas, the rail to attach it, the upgrade for the mechanical closing thing, and then the brackets to mount it. And then Ivan and Dave and a few other folks helped me install it at Swarm. And it was an afternoon project, and with a group of us working together, it took about 5 hours, and it's been great to have. The reason I like the mechanical version better than the electric version is your arms make a triangle with your bus, and a triangle is one of the strongest geometric shapes, where the electric one does still have triangles in it, but you don't have that lower bracket arm. So I feel like the mechanical ones are a little bit more stable, in my opinion.
Nah.
I think that's why I said my opinion.
Nah.
So
Yeah, mine's got a triangle, but it's at the top, and it's got a suspension air shock in there. So when the wind's blowing, it can compress and move around rather than break or tear. But yeah, it doesn't have that arm that comes all the way down to the bottom of your bus that you can run into. It only has things that are up here that you can run into.
There's pros and cons.
Yeah, there's pros and cons.
But if you can find the armature locally and the tube locally, and used is fine. There usually is nothing wrong with them. Then you can order all those upgraded parts from RecPro, and I've been happy with the quality I've received from them as well.
So if you're building your bus, and I've met a lot of people, and I'll just tell you the story of this one person, and
This is me.
they're not watching, but they're like, oh, I love to camp. I'm just gonna, do a no-build build, and I love to camp. It'll be fine. But you know, when you go camping and things get really crappy and, you know, like you're throwing up or something, or it's rained for 8 days solid and blah, 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 you can't pack up and go home. It is your home. And so when you're building, and this is something that I tell people a lot of times, you know, build for your bad days, and then your good days are going to be awesome. You know, build with the idea in mind that just because you're going to go into a van or a bus or a shuttle bus or whatever, a camper, that, you know, make accommodations for the bad days. Like if you every once in a while get heartburn and you're miserable, account for that. Make life easier. If you also think about your lifestyle now, if you run, guilty, and you go home and you just collapse, then you're not going to want to build a bed at the end of the day, you know. And if you are thinking, well, I can just build a bed because of all that space, and I'm willing, but you're just falling into bed at the end of the day, maybe you should just take a moment and like deconstruct your bed every day before you go out and do your things, and reconstruct your bed before you get to go to bed at night while you're still building, and see if that's something that you really want to live with. Me, I'm lazy. I don't want to build a bed. I want to, you know, I go and go and go. And also, people say, well, we're going to live out of it, so I don't need stuff in it. But like these days of rain and stuff, you know, you need to know what you can do, or the ice storms that I've survived in and the snowstorms that I've gone through. You need to be able to be ready for those when they happen, and account for those days when you're building and preparing to live full time. And that's really important. So if you build for your bad days, then your good days will be great.
Good one.
Yeah, and kind of following on that, if you're still at the decision point of what bus you're going to buy, get the biggest bus you can get. Like, you're gonna make a lot of sacrifices with a smaller bus. And even like my bus it's only 32 feet. I could go 8 feet longer on my bus, and it's a good amount of space. And we have another bus that's bigger that we're building back in Florida right now. But there's no replacement for that interior space. When we had our short bus, we had the constraint of, if I wanted to wake up and do something, Hillary would have to wake up also, because our bed was also our sofa, and she'd have to get up and I'd fold it, turn it into a sofa so I could start my day and start working. And if one of us is sick and needs to stay in bed all day, suddenly you've got a huge issue. And like Kimberly said, being able to pack your bed up and unpack it again when you're ready to use it, like it sounds like wood. That's not a big deal, but it can be, especially if there's more than one of you, because you're not going to be on the same page of using it every day. Just a lot of other stuff, like the amount of space you have is really going to dictate how much home you have there with you. And I'm a believer in the little bit of learning curve of figuring out how to drive a 40-footer versus a 5-window is worth it.
Yeah, and I will say, I have survived a major injury and lived in my bus during my major injury, which took months and months to recover from. And I've also survived a pretty significant illness that took 40 days of my life, and did permanent physical damage. I was very, very ill, and I was able to live in my bus. And I will tell you also that during both of those times, there were changes that I made to make my life easier.
Kimberly got us a violation.
Oh, hate speech.
Did I?
I don't know.
Hate speech.
Is it really hate speech?
What in the world?
Life-threatening illness.
Oh.
And you cannot talk about illness?
Evidently.
No, we can, but they've got some automated flagging they do on TikTok.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yes, I had an illness that was very long and almost made me unalive.
There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You gotta choose your words carefully.
Yes.
Right.
yeah. Sorry.
So.
Well, I think your point was really excellent about building your bus to match your lifestyle, right? So like you have a smart bus.
Mm.
I have a dumb bus, but I also have a dumb house, so it's a lateral move for me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't live with a microwave. I don't live with a television in my home, so I'm
We
not
don't
gonna
have
put one
those
in my
either.
bus.
Yeah.
But we do have the ability to tell Google to please turn on our lights
Right. Yeah.
and turn on our air
So
conditioner.
to match your lifestyle to your bus, whatever level that may be, is people always ask me how do I live without X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, well, I don't have it in my home either, so it's
Right. Yeah, it's easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, any other questions? We're a little bit over time, which is fine. We can keep hanging out
Overtime.
as long as people have things they want to chat about.
I appreciate your time and what you were saying and everything. I'm gonna try to reach out for everything, and if you help, it's gonna be fine. And I think, like Kimberly, you finished like with good things to say, like build it for the bad time. So I like what you said, because I don't have a schoolie, but I sold my house. The only home I have, it's my bus.
Yeah.
And I want to live with less things, because yes, I don't need much thing. I like to fish, I like to draw, and I like to travel. So that's my life, and I like it, and I can see my child too. But you finish it with the good words, and thank you for you three for your patience for me.
All right, last chance TikTok. If you have any questions, we're going to be signing off in a moment. We've got some not infighting, but in discussion happening there.
Yeah. Some chit chat.
Yeah, some chit chat. I think that's going to be it.
Sweet. Thank you guys.